Welcome back. If you tuned into the debate last night a little late, you may have missed Donald Trump's strongest moment, pressing Hillary Clinton on NAFTA and the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement. Here it is.
Secretary of State, and I have
Your husband signed NAFTA, which was one of the worst things that ever happened to the manufacturing industry. That is your opinion. You go to New England, you go to Ohio, Pennsylvania, you go anywhere you want, Secretary Clinton, and you will see devastation. And now you want to approve Trans-Pacific Partnership. You were totally in favor of it.
That is just not accurate. I was against it once it was finally negotiated and the terms were laid out. I wrote about that in...
You called it the gold standard. You called it the gold standard of trade deals. You said it's the finest deal you've ever seen.
No.
And then you heard what I said about it, and all of a sudden you were against it.
Well, Donald, I know you live in your own reality, but that is not the fact.
So is it President Obama's fault? Is it President Obama's fault?
Even announced. Look, there
Secretary,
are
is it President Obama's fault?
There are
because he's pushing it.
Clinton's shortcomings last night were not as pronounced as Trump, but she was open to Trump's attacks on trade and the economy. And she doesn't have a good answer for her change of heart on the TPP. It was an issue that dogged her during the primaries. Joining me now is someone who knows something about debating Hillary Clinton. It's Vermont Senator and former Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, who, of course, is now supporting Hillary Clinton and on the road for her. Senator Sanders, welcome back, sir.
Good to be with you.
So when I heard the trade arguments last night, when you heard the trade arguments last night, what was your reaction, and what would you have liked to have heard Secretary Clinton say?
Well, my reaction is that Secretary Clinton has been very strong in saying that she is opposed to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and she will oppose it coming onto the floor of the Congress in the lame duck session. I also heard her make a very valid criticism of Donald Trump's trickle-down economic theory, which would give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the very richest people in this country, including $4 billion in tax breaks for the Trump family if the estate tax is repealed. We do not want to go down to trickle-down economics again. We had enough of that under George W. Bush.
Well, I want to go back to the trade issue, though. Why should voters believe her on this? Her track record, her husband's track record, which, of course, is what Donald Trump was bringing up, does indicate that when she has to decide on a trade agreement, she usually seems to side on the, quote, free trade side of the agreement, the more internationalist side of the agreement. Now, since debating you, since running against you, she's gone to the other side. Why should voters believe this change?
Well, because I think she senses right now that most working people in this country do understand that our trade policies have been a disaster, that CEOs and large corporations have benefited by shutting down plants in America, moving to China, moving to other low-wage countries. And I think she now understands that we cannot continue those types of policies. And yes, she has been clear in saying she will oppose the TPP and oppose it coming to the floor. And I will do everything that I can to make sure that, in fact, we defeat the TPP if it does come to the floor.
I could make a case that no one has been more of a leader on this issue than you. You've moved much of the Democratic Party in this direction. Why do you think President Obama hasn't been convinced yet?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I am a friend of the president's. We have worked together on many, many issues. I think on this issue, he is dead wrong. If he were on the show, he would tell you that he thinks I am dead wrong. He has his views. But I think what history will record is that one of the reasons that the middle class in this country is shrinking, one of the reasons we are seeing so much income and wealth inequality is the fact that over the last 15 years, we have lost 60,000 factories in America. Not all of it attributable to trade, but a lot of it. And there is a race to the bottom where American workers now have to compete against Chinese workers. That is not the way it should be. We should lift up poor people, not see the middle class of this country in decline.
Do you believe NAFTA was devastating? Do you think it was more negative than positive for the country?
Absolutely, no question about it. NAFTA was the beginning, and other trade policies followed. But again, it's not just, and I've been a leader, against all of these trade policies. But it's not just trade. I mean, what Trump has got to tell us is not only why he wants to give tax breaks to billionaires, he has to tell us why he doesn't want to raise the starvation minimum wage, which is now $7.25 an hour, why he doesn't support pay equity for women, why he doesn't have a plan to rebuild our infrastructure and create millions of decent paying jobs. So his record, I know he's a Johnny One Note here on trade, fine. But if you look at his broad economic policies, they will be a disaster for working families.
As you're aware, and if many people have been coming to you asking this question, which is this issue of millennial support for Secretary Clinton, it is waning. If I show you our most recent NBC News Survey Monkey poll, she doesn't crack 50% among voters under 30. Now, Donald Trump's not doing well. He's only getting 26%. But I'm focused on the Gary Johnson-Jill Stein combination there. 23% together of voters under 30 are picking either Johnson or Stein. Do you think something happened last night that'll make that change?
Well, I think something did happen, but I think it's got to continue to happen. Actually, tomorrow, as we speak, tomorrow I will be in New Hampshire with Secretary Clinton. And what we're going to be talking about is a pretty radical proposal. And that proposal is that any family in America earning $125,000 or less, that's about 83% of our population, will be able to send their kids to a public college or university tuition-free. And Clinton also has a proposal, significant proposal, to reduce student debt. Add to that the fact that Donald Trump's position on climate change, where he thinks it's a hoax, is totally absurd. I think that a lot of the younger people who are concerned about the cost of college, concerned about climate change, concerned about women's rights, they're going to come on board Secretary Clinton's campaign.
By the way, your name did make an appearance last night at the debate. Let me play that clip, get you to respond.
You don't know who broke in to DNC, but what did we learn with DNC? We learned that Bernie Sanders was taken advantage of by your people, by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Look what happened to her. But Bernie Sanders was taken advantage of. That's what we learned.
How do you like Donald Trump invoking your name in a sympathetic tone like that?
I've taken advantage of, my goodness, I don't know, strange way of putting it. Look, from day one in my campaign, we understood, obviously, that we were taking on the entire political establishment, including the DNC. So the revelations that came out, frankly, were disappointing, but they were not exactly shocking to me. We knew that from day one when there were just a few debates scheduled, etc.
Are you prepared for more revelations that may come out from WikiLeaks that may make your supporters more upset?
Look, a lot of people are upset for a lot of reasons, some of them valid, some of them not. But at the end of the day, either Donald Trump is going to become president or Hillary Clinton is going to become president. I think Trump will be a disaster for this country. I think on a number of issues, Clinton's position is quite strong. I think we should try to make her stronger. I think the day after the election, we've got to bring millions of people together to make sure that she becomes the most progressive president that we can see her become. But I think the choice is just crystal clear that on almost every issue, she is far and away the superior candidate.
Senator Sanders, you're here in Washington, not traveling. It must feel odd to be back in D.C., but yes. You're hitting the road again soon, so we'll be safe on the trail, sir. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
When we come back.